In this lecture, we would like to discuss about Karl Jaspers, who is considered as the founder of existentialism. So, Karl Jasper, a German thinker, major German thinker, who survived the Nazi regime and the war, and described as a giant among numerous thoughtful men, is generally regarded as the founder of existentialism as a philosophy. And in his approach, Jasper thought in the matters of like human values, the crisis of freedom, and the significance of certain prevalent kinds of human anxiety. And he was against the labeling down tendency in mass society. So, according to Karl Jaspers, man as pleasure seeking and willing to work only when driven by dire need or the whiff and perpetually craving for novelty and amusement. The weakness and man is concerned is not so much with the individual and mass society as with the unusual man, the atheist or the creative person. The very weakness of the entire existentialist philosophy is that, except for Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, who advocated solidarity, involvement, and action in a particular set of circumstances, namely the German occupation of France, they primarily link in terms of not of society but the individual, and emphasize more his futility of existence than his capability to bring about change. They look at man as mere slave of destiny or as a mere instrument of historical process. And it was completely against the philosophical approach of Karl Jasper, who emphasized that man as pleasure seeking and it is always carving for novelty and amusement, and his emphasis on the unusual man, the artist, or the creative persons. So he ultimately, as the founder of existentialism, we would like to discuss that existentialism can hardly be described as a philosophy, much less a political philosophy. So, as Professor Edward McNall Barnes described it as a Salvinist philosophy, a ritualist philosophy, and a relationist and skeptical philosophy all rolled into one, and a combination of the romanticism, the ritualism, the skepticism, the pragmatism, and even something of the utopianism of the past 100 years. So, exactly in later years, Karl Jaspers renounced existentialism and retreated into traditional religious minded conservatism, while Sartre got more and more involved with the activities of the French Communist Party till he was disillusioned by the Soviet suppression of the Hungarian uprising in 1956. So, all that we can say about existentialism is that it was a sound emotional response to a grim contemporary situation, but did not even try to tell us anything about how to get out of it. And in connection to the philosophical contribution to existentialism by Karl Jaspers, as it typically differs from the existential philosophy of Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, who advocated solidarity, involvement, and action in a particular set of circumstances. In regards to that, another political intellectual, Paul Tillich, a German migrating to USA, and he was a solitary existentialist thinker who made a distinction between pathological or neurotic and ontological or universal anxiety and suggests that while pathological anxiety being a manifestation of a sensitive but sick individual's restricted response to subjective existential kinds of anxiety varied from culture to culture and was capable of being cured. Ontological anxiety was subjective and inescapable. Inescapable it was this ontological anxiety, generally not even known to the individual, which often made it difficult even for a healthy individual to adjust himself with the social sickness. So, Professor Paul Tillich also does not seem to be interested in providing the answer to the question as to how the individual can break through the two kinds of anxieties which were developed by him as such. The pathological anxieties and the ontological anxieties, which are otherwise considered as neurotic anxieties and universal anxieties. So, after discussing Karl Jaspers in regards to existentialism as a philosophy, and he was considered as the founder of this particular philosophy, and he has been deeply influenced by Hegel and Nietzsche. Despite differences on fundamental problems like God, religion, political program, etc., we found there is a great similarity of approach between Karl Jasper and also with Marshall, another important existential philosopher of the period, and Gabriel Marshall, who was also developed his existential philosophy in the contemporary time of Karl Jaspers. But both Jaspers and Gabriel Marshall, they emphasize in the matters like human values the crisis of freedom and the significance of certain prevalent kinds of humanity. So both Karl Jaspers and Gabriel Marcel are against the labeling down tendency in mass society. So both Gabriel Marcel and Karl Jaspers have a contemptuous approach towards the masses and describe them as pleasure seeking, willing to work only when driven by dire need or the wish and perpetual craving for novelty and amusement. So, we have discussed in this lecture about the very beginning of the existential philosophy by Karl Jaspers and his contemporary thinker Gabriel Marcel after the end of the Second World War, and both of them contributed for the very development of existentialism during the Nazi period in Germany, and in particularly Karl Jaspers is considered as the founder of existentialism as a philosophy, and in that way he was deeply influenced by the philosophy of Hegel and also of Nietzsche. So we have completed our lecture on Karl Jaspers and his contemporary thinker Gabriel Marcel.